I don't know if you caught this one, but there was a scientific study or a psychological study recently into how best to persuade people away from their point of view. And I thought this was very interesting. What you do is you don't confront them directly. What you do is you take the extreme of their position and you gently ridicule it so that they can see it's an extreme, and you make fun of it. And that is the best way to get... That's why comedians are so important and why they are doing the good work, because that's exactly what the best of them do. They do it in a humorous way. When Dave Chappelle speaks to an audience, I mean, he's compelling, you know, and there'll be some people in that audience who have gone to the show because their girlfriend or boyfriend wanted them to go, and so they're not really that into it, and they're sitting there with their arms folded, and, you know, they're not being persuaded. But then, you know, there's a chance that kind of approach can get through to people. So it's not easy to do, I have to say. And I haven't had those kind of conversations directly with people for a long time, because I found, just like what you were saying, that, you know, I would begin to put my case forward, and I could see people just shutting down. Oh, that's that. Boom, shut the doors, you know. So that's a good one to bear in mind, you know, that if you try and find the extreme and then make fun of that, then the whole thing becomes less tenable to the person that you're speaking to.
So is that why they're trying to outlaw comedy here in Canada? Because they know it wakes people up, maybe? Probably.
I would think so. I mean, they would know. I mean, the biggest mistake you can make is to underestimate your opponent. Assume that your opponent is cleverer than you. Assume that your opponent knows stuff that you don't. And undoubtedly, when it comes to political stuff, and if you're in the opposition, if you're outside, that is undeniably the case. The establishment has got all of the information that they need because they can get it. They're the only ones who can get it. They know everything. They know the whole thing. They know what your psychology is before you do. So it's always safe to assume that your opponent is performing their side of it to the best of their ability, and that if you're going to take them on, whether it be by debate or whether it be direct action, you know, like the truckers did, you have to assume that the other side has got that already knows you're coming.
Yeah. That's wild.
It is wild, isn't it, when you think about it? That's horribly depressing.
It is. It is. You know, and I don't mean to go there with it, because it's just...
oh, no, but you've got to sometimes, haven't you?
Yeah, I keep trying to tell myself, like, no matter how ugly things seem to be, how financially unstable they seem to be, like, right now, I'm living the best life I could ever live. Like, if you took me and put me in the 70s, I wouldn't have the same life I'm having now. I wouldn't have my recording studio and all my VSTs and my keyboards and the things that I really love. Now, obviously, I would find something I loved no matter where I was. I'm one of those kind of people that I think I do well no matter where you put me. But, you know, I'm very grateful, you know, that I could, like, when back in the 90s when I knew I wanted to make music for a living, the way we make music now was just, like, maybe just on the horizon, right? With the MIDI and the digital audio workstations, and, you know, seeing pictures of David Bowie sitting around 13-inch computers with monitors that go this deep, you know, going like, this is the future, you know, and I didn't see it. Like, even when I saw that, I'm going like, no, I'd still rather be around tapes and big mixing boards, right? Because that's what you visualize when you think about it, right? But I'm glad it's not that way, though. I'm glad I've never owned a console for mixing on. Like, that's like, a mouse is all you need. Why would you need all those sliders, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, so it's, you know, I'm kind of happy in that regard. So but at the same time, if I lived 30 years from now, I'd probably say the same thing about our time now. I'd say like, oh, look at the archaic bullshit they were doing 30 years ago. You know,
yeah,
but
the monologue thing that I took off the album was about that. It's about how, well, in part it was about how it's a difficult thing to express, but these are the best of times they've ever been because of what you were saying. But they're also the worst of times for those who don't have it.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Because if you see that there are people who have that, like what we've got, we're complaining about. I would complain about being broke. I'm waiting for my retirement pension to come next year when I'll have some money, you know. Oh, that happy day will come, you know. But someone who lives in Africa with no running water could listen to this podcast and think, what an entitled prick that guy is. You know, he's got all that stuff, he's got all these instruments, he's got all this stuff, and he can't wait until he gets more of it. You know, and I'm acutely aware of that. But you know, I don't make the rules, so I don't feel guilty. I refuse to spend my life feeling guilty. But I do understand there are people who don't have this. You know, so it's what Jordan Peterson says about the you know, he points out to young people, you've got it so good you don't even know you're alive. You call verbal banding back and forth, you call that abuse. You have that as the equivalent of physical abuse because you've never been physically abused. You've never been hit. You've never played rugby at school and had some guy 2 years older than you knee you in the face so that your ears are ringing and you can't see straight. You know, you've never experienced actual physical violence, so you think that it's equivalent to being called a name. No, it's not. You know, so we do have it as good as anybody's ever had it, but at the same time, it's still not as good as it should be.
What's it, right?
You can see how it could be so much better. That's the thing, you know.
Just watch Star Trek, right? That always reminds you how it could be.
Oh well, the classic stuff does, but don't watch the modern stuff. Bloody hell, some of that's brutal, man.